Testing.
Check 1, 2.
Check 1, 2.
Hey everyone, welcome into the Edge Node House of Web3. Can I get a quick show of hands? Who has heard of the Graph Network? Awesome. Edge Node is the initial team behind the Graph Network. We started the House of Web3 as a way to give back to the community, to have a local hub for Web3 innovation, and to be the forefront for builders in the Bay Area. Without further ado, I want to introduce both Marta, a co-creator at the House of Web3. She also happens to be the co-creator of the month. She embodies a You're the bomb.
Okay, wait a second. I need to say something. For those who don't know what this means, so we all we live here every day and we co-create here every day at the House of Web3. This is like a very special place to our hearts. I see a lot of my day-to-day friends here. Um, I came here not that long ago. I discovered this place, and it's really transformed my life in every way. That I've been trying to give back to the community as much as possible, and I am very happy to be get this prize right now. But I must say that I have done everything I could to be a good co-creator. But then Jason came to me, and they do these competitions on Friday, ping pong competitions. And he said to me, "Oh, you're not gonna get the co-creator of the month if you don't actually compete in ping pong with me. I'm very bad at ping pong." So I did, and there you go. Anyways, yeah, thank you for that, guys.
You're
Very
welcome.
nice.
You earned it. And this is Ryan Gill. He's the co-founder
Not
of
co-creator of the month.
DCentral.xyz. Maybe next month. Cheers, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yay. Cool. Well, so today, this is a little bit the agenda we're gonna cover. We're gonna talk a little bit about Upstream, what Upstream is. We're gonna talk about the program that we're launching at Upstream called My First DAO. Then we're gonna do a DAO one-on-one session questions with Ryan. He'll introduce us a little bit about Decentral and everything he's built at Decentral. And then we'll dive a little bit deeper into what My First DAO is, and we'll go through some Q&As with everyone. So yeah, the question is, what is Upstream? Well, I am the lead UX designer at Upstream. Upstream is a no-code, full stack DAO builder. And so what does that mean? So DAOs are complex to start and build and manage. So we simply sort of streamline the process in a very simple and intuitive way. And so we have a dashboard that basically offers some of the features that you see here: governance, treasury, tokenomics, chat, as well as community management tools like chat and events. And we host all sorts of DAOs in our platform, from social clubs to NFT projects to investment clubs, Vault DAOs, and more. We're always welcome for new DAO founders with new ideas, and we try to allocate as much as we can the tools we have to build new projects. So through working at Upstream, we've learned a lot of that users creating DAOs struggle a lot, and it's a very difficult process sometimes to not only build your DAO, but really know what you're doing. It's a complicated field, and there's not a lot of information out there for people who want to start DAOs and be part of DAOs. So we've created we've created a 24-week program called My First DAO, which is an educational program that teaches everything that you need to know in order to start a DAO, be a star member of a DAO, and And yeah, and so before we sort of go deep into what My First DAO is and what the program looks like, I would like to talk a little bit about DAOs, the concept of DAOs. And we have Ryan here today. Who, well, you can give us a little bit of an overview of what DAOs are. But before we do that, how many of you here in the audience are members of a DAO? Raise your hand. Okay, so wow, so we have quite a few people. Um, how many of you have never heard of a DAO before? Okay, okay, good amount. Great. So cool. So here we're gonna talk a little bit like about the what, why, how, and future of DAOs, right? So we have Ryan, who is a complete DAO expert at this point. And he would you mind like sharing a little bit about what currently DAOs what are DAOs used for?
Yeah. So I'm Ryan. So I got into the DAO space about a year and a half ago. I met a girl at a bar, asked me if I knew what NFTs were, and 2 weeks later I quit my job, jumped full time into the DAO space. So I don't expect everyone to do that, and I never heard from her again. But surprising, because then she found out I was in the DAO space. But DAOs, I think, the original definition, the decentralized autonomous organization, really comes from the DeFi sort of protocol orientation of DAOs, right? And this is its original form, what DAOs were meant to be. And it has since evolved definitely to really adopt more of the culture and community and human element that DAOs started to adopt. And so you can think of DAOs as a shared or a group of people with a shared purpose, shared financial resources. So this can be a wallet, an account, and then coming together and acting towards a shared goal. And so hopefully to create something which I think we can deem as community value, right? And so community value is not something enjoyed by the individual, what or a group of individuals, most often produced by like private companies. It's also not something to be enjoyed by everyone. And so that's what governments do, right? And so this is more a value that can be enjoyed by a community of individuals with that shared purpose and that shared experience.
Very interesting. And so, why do you think DAOs have gained so much popularity over the last years?
Yeah, I think that my first DAO was Constitution DAO. And so if you don't remember Constitution DAO, it was a very Nicolas Cage inspired DAO to buy the US Constitution. 15,000 people contributed funds and became a member of this DAO. We raised $40 million and were beat out by $1 million because it turns out when a buyer in a bidding auction can see how much the other organization has, they can just outbid them by one. But it really brought a lot of light to what is a DAO and what's possible when you bring people together with this shared financial resource. And as that, over the last few years, tooling has really become more and more approachable for people trying to start DAOs. And so, how easy is it now to spin up a multi-sig wallet where many people can sign on? You have, more collaboration coordination tools. You have ways to bring roles and responsibilities on chain and distribute funds. And so I think it's just been a really slow progression that's allowed people to join a DAO and understand it.
So, as this slow progression is evolving, let's jump into the why. Why would people want to start a DAO?
Yeah, why start a DAO? I think, great question. Is it really boils down to if you have something that you want to accomplish and you think that others would also want to back you in this and have a financial or time stake in the building or pursuit of this goal, a DAO is a great vehicle to do this. And so I help manage, a community of 10,000 developers, right? And we want to teach people about Web3, but also build products. And I can go into more of that later, but it's this shared purpose of us all now building something together where prior you would have to start a company and then hire 10,000 people to hopefully serve a role.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a complex area, and there are a lot of unresolved answers on how things really work. If I were to ask how DAOs operate, would you be able to respond to that question?
I think it changes, one, based on the type of DAO. There's some really small investment DAOs. Orange DAO is a great example of one that is a Y Combinator based DAO. So it's only Y Combinator founders or their portfolio companies. They join the DAO, they have a GP on their fund, they vote on which startups to fund, and it's a very set process. Or you have much larger DAOs that have to take into account, they're more of a social DAO, right? And so what is that community doing? And so in a captureless system, and that's what DAOs are trying to design, right? It's build a system of structure that we all are familiar with and not decentralized in the sense of who's doing what and how do we find things. So building a system of structure without capture. And so that means not allowing one individual or a group of individuals to hold so much power within the community that they drive the direction of the DAO. And so that's a really difficult thing to do, but there's a lot of great research into the primitives of how this can be done that I think is becoming more known and really more exciting.
So as things are becoming more known, the space is evolving, people are being more educated about it, it's becoming more mainstream. How do you see the future in the next 2 to 5 years and ahead of now in relation to DAOs evolving?
Yeah. There's how much time do you guys have? I think that we can first look at the legal and regulatory landscape. So, there was a recent push in the California legislature to allow for DAOs to incorporate in the state. And so that's the first of, only a few states to even consider what a DAO is. And DAOs really, in sort of the current zeitgeist, is they're an organization, right? And so how do we, it's like starting a startup, right? But you and as many friends as you want, and you can distribute equity to whoever. And so that legal and regulatory landscape, though, hasn't provided a lot of guidance for DAOs to go, okay, we can do this, we can't do this. What do we do? I think there's also a big argument and a lot of interesting technology being built around AI. And I think if you go back to that original sort of definition for DAOs, autonomy and autonomous sort of operations, how does AI fit into this, right? And so AI as token holders, AI as assistants to be a much more productive DAO and not have the human elements of a community and knowledge be the blocker for the DAO to progress. And so I think that there's a lot of, in any large system, you need a system that allows for the sharing and distribution of knowledge as easily as possible and decision making. And so we're going to see a shift, I think, on where humans fit into this DAO system that they're trying to build.
Interesting thoughts. We can all have conversations about that afterwards. For sure, there's a lot of room for thought. So you come from a perspective where you have been very involved with DAOs and you have previous experience. So why don't you share a little bit about what you've done with Decentral, well, everything you've done. Share a little bit about how it all started and what are you doing now?
Yeah. Fireside chat with Ryan. This is fun. And so I think that I'll start with Developer DAO. So Developer DAO, I came in early after its creation, started by someone named Matter Dabbit, and he created a DAO, launched an NFT, 10,000 developers, essentially all aggregated into a Discord server, and he handed it over to about 8 people and went, go, right? And so we're sitting there with, okay, what do we do with 10,000 developers interested in Web3? And that led us through what has now been a year and a half of designing this game that allows for any member of the DAO to play in different parts of this game. And so as a steward, for instance, I oversee the treasury. I make sure our governance is moving forward. But that game that we've designed is one where you're able to launch a project if you wanted and have a revenue sharing agreement. Say you want to be an entrepreneur, right? Just launched today a fellowship where we can support and fund developers in their pursuit of entrepreneurship. We also have a talent network. And so that talent network allows for a client to come in, say, I'm looking for 6 developers who fit this criteria, and that's run and operated by a team within our DAO. We also have, partnerships teams. We run mini hackathons. And this is all an ecosystem within our tiny little DAO that we've had to design from the very start. And so what comes with that, beyond governance, tokenomics, there is that human and design structure that comes with DAOs. And I think that when a DAO is as broad as it can be, finding ways to narrow that down is really important. And so that then brought me to Decentral, where we're building out a network of DAOs supported by a plugins ecosystem, and really is focused on, okay, who else is building cool stuff in the DAO space, and what learnings can we share, and how do we build this next future of DAOs and have more games for people to play in. And so with Decentral, we're shamelessly plugging here, launching a podcast, of course. Clearly, I like microphones, and so it is a podcast where we're speaking with the chief science officer of Molecule, who has done really incredible work to fund scientific advancement in longevity research, psychedelic research. They have a DAO specifically researching men's hair loss. They have a DAO for women's health. And so millions of funding is going towards these things. And so how does that work? And how do we take that model, apply it to something new? I'm also speaking to the founder of a Vagabond DAO for van lifers, and they own properties up and down the West Coast. And if you're a member of their DAO, you can go stay with them, and you just have to contribute. You get Skylink or Starlink for Wi-Fi, hot water, you get hot tubs, I think. And so I think a lot of people are taking DAOs and applying them to whatever they kind of see fit. And it's a really fun space. And so at Decentral, that's sort of what we're exploring.
It's cool. So if someone were to start a DAO now, and you go through when you started a DAO, how do you see some of the things that would have been useful for you to have back then?
Yeah, I think that things like figuring out governance processes, where do we host proposals, right? What happens when, with conflict resolution, what do we do about our token? How do we map our token holders? How do we have chats around this? And I think that if there had been a program that we could have learned all of this and then been handed a DAO, it would have been a fantastic sort of program to go through.
Right. So guess what? Guess what My First DAO is all about. So at Upstream, that's exactly what we're doing. We have seen a lot of people who struggle in the process of getting all of the necessary knowledge to start their own DAOs. And so what we're doing is we're launching an educational program. It's a 24-week long educational program that basically teaches you everything you need to know to start your own DAO and to join a DAO and be a good participant member of a DAO. During this program, we are going to offer a long list of perks. Here on the screen, you see some of them. Every week, there's going to be one weekly speaker that is going to be talking about many different topics that we're going to go through in a second. But these speakers are all highly connected in the DAO industry. We have people from Andreessen Horowitz, we have people from Harvard, MIT, Stanford, we have people from, well, you name it, ApeCoin DAO, many others. So it's a good way to not only get to know these people and have the ability to have access to them directly through Q&As at the end of each session, but also to go deep into learning everything from scratch and at a very professional level. Unlike any other traditional learning programs, we are bringing the learn and end badges rewards. So you see the very cute NFT up there? This is a DAOphin. It's a dolphin. We call it the DAOphin. You get it? Yeah. So this DAOphin is a token created by Process Gray for those NFT very nerdy, like really into the topic. He is the creator for the Illuminati and the Goblin. Well, who knows about NFTs probably will be very happy to own an NFT from the same artist. So he created this NFT, and how it's going to work is that we are going to mint one of these NFTs, and this is going to be your entry point for the DAO. At the same time, it will give you power over the DAO and voting power. And so during the program, if you attend the sessions, for every session you attend, you're going to get a reward. At the end of the program, you're going to have loads of different rewards, and you're going to get a generative version of this NFT with a personalized rare trait. So at the end of the program, who has the most rare version of this DAOphin will know the most, because we will have been part of the whole program. That's just a good way of sort of interacting and finding the playfulness of the program. At the same time, we are fun. We are going to be all the money, 60% of the mint proceeds will be going to the treasury at the end of the program, which means the all of the NFT project IP will also be part of like a funded treasury at the end of the program, where we have a closing party at Art Basel, by the way. So that's cool. And then the DAO will be fully from the members, and members can decide where to take it, what to do next, what vote on proposals, and what it can happen. And it will be a fully funded treasury for them to operate. How does that sound?
Yeah, really cool.
So, what are some of the things that we'll cover? These are just some of the a few top items. We'll cover a little bit about an intro about DAOs. We'll talk about Web3, types of DAOs, the landscape. We'll go through basic governance structure, proposals, voting, forums, everything related. We'll cover tokenomics, big topic, where we'll talk about incentive models. We'll talk about use cases, utilities, etc., from legal, regulatory perspectives to partnerships, community building, everything related to these topics. We will also have members who can vote, propose new topics that they want to learn, and create proposals. If they get voted from Upstream, we'll make sure that we connect the right speakers and we find the right people to teach these topics. So yeah, it's quite of a structured program in a sense that it covers all of the basics, but there's a lot more perks that we can't even imagine of the synergies that will happen once we connect everyone in the program. We're expecting to onboard a fair amount of people to this DAO. Well, we it's hard to really make a number, but we're aiming for like 10,000 people to be part of it in some way. Which is good because it's going to bring a lot of awareness to the space. It's going to bring a lot of community together. It's going to bring a lot of conversation and a lot of power to the DAO. And we'll see what happens with that. That said, who wants to get involved? Awesome. Awesome. So let me share a bit more about how you can get involved in the program. How there's going to be an open edition. So this is the pre-minting party. What does this mean? That you guys are seeing a very early, non-seen by anyone else part of this program, which you have the advantage to know. All of these, like all of the updates and announcements, will be published on our Twitter. So at the end, make sure to follow so you can follow what the announcements are. We'll also we'll be participating in many aspects actively to sort of onboard people. But how it's going to work is that this cute DAO thing is your access to the DAO. So the idea is that you mint an NFT or as many as you want, up to 25 per transaction. So why would you mint 25 NFTs? Well, it depends on the voting power you want to have in the DAO, right? And how many NFTs you want to collect, and the rarity of the generative art that can happen after with the NFT, and etc. Right? And how involved you want to be. So one NFT equals one vote in the DAO, and every NFT, the NFT price is 0.15 ETH, plus gas fees. Um, but guess what? Today, we're very, very thankful that all of you made it and that you are part of our experience here at the House of Web3. So we have a little perk for all of you. Dun, 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 dun. Everyone here is gonna get a free DAOphin NFT. Awesome. So what do we do next? Here we have, there you go. I didn't even have to explain. I see all the phones up already. Exactly. So ideally you'll scan this QR code in order to claim your free NFT DAOphin. You'll just have to insert your email address that is associated with the Eventbrite reservation that you did to come to the event. Make sure it's the same email. And then make sure to provide the Ethereum wallet account, the Ethereum wallet address, but make sure not to have the ENS domain names. We want the Ethereum wallet address. I'm going to leave this here for like a few moments in case you want to do it now. If not, at the at the end of the event, we after the Q&A, we'll leave this up here for a while, so to make sure that everyone can scan it. If you were not able to go through the whole process now because you don't have access, you can come to me, give me your personal information. We'll exchange, and I'll make sure to get you all of the information that you need in order to participate in the program. Yeah. Did you guys manage to scan? Yeah, we'll go back to it in a second. But basically, the My First DAO kickoff will be in May 25th. So expect to get an email from us with your free NFT 1 or 2 days before the event launches. And in this email, we're going to send you everything you need in order to onboard. We'll send you access to the Upstream dashboard platform, where we will make sure that we connect your wallet and you have access to your NFT. And we'll give you access to the Discord server, where we'll have a lot of conversations. And like share, like most of these things will happen in the Twitter account, so you have it up here in case you want to follow it and stay up to date. Ideally in the next few days it's going to be very active. I'm pretty sure. So you guys are the early crew to know what's going to happen, which is exciting, and I'm very happy that we're sharing this. Yeah, we'll keep it sort of like short for now. I think, I want to thank everyone to be here that came here tonight. We're very excited to launch this project. The really what we want to try is to maximize the amount of knowledge that we can give out there in terms of DAO, Web3, and everything that we can to help grow the community and educate as much as possible. We're very excited about the lineup of some of the participants. Ryan has had a little sneak peek.
Yeah, I got to see who's coming to speak, and it's impressive.
Yeah, you actually know some of them, don't you? Yeah, yeah. Well, Ryan, you have been in this world for a while, so it's interesting to see how people evolve in the space and the perspectives of where it all is going, really. Even if you're not like super into DAOs in the sense of like I don't want to start a DAO, but you're like, oh, I'm curious to know more. This is a great program because you're basically giving it, and we're giving it for free, but at the same time it's a great initiative to be curious and learn a bit more about what is happening and where we're going from great experts. Anyways, so we're gonna finish it here. If you have any questions for Ryan or for me about the program, now is the time. Yeah. Yeah, good question. So every week there's gonna be a different weekly event. So how it's going to happen? It's online. It's at Upstream. So at Upstream we have a tool which is called Events, and we host our own events in the platform. And so how the events are gonna go is like from Andreessen, we already have the speaker we cannot name yet. It will be posted soon. Where the Alex, the CEO of Upstream, will have a conversation with him live with everyone, all the members. And during that conversation, members will be able to actively ask and participate. And at the end, there will be a Q&A where it will be very interactive. And the format will be sort of like that throughout every week with different speakers, and it will cover different topics from the ones we already mentioned previously. Right. So if you attend at the hour and the time that it's actually done, you will learn and earn a badge. If you don't, you will have access to all of the content and you will be able to go back to the recorded videos and have access to the information. It's all POAP style, so depends on how many badges you want to collect. Yeah. Well, as I said, all of these videos will be recorded, will be available to you. If you can't access it at the moment, you will be able to go through those. You will just not get the badges, but you'll have accessibility to go through the whole program afterwards. Yeah. Yeah. Of the My First DAO. So the purpose primarily, the reason why we really started was to create a tool that will really bring an educational platform that would teach you everything about DAOs. But at the same time, it's much more than that, right? Because we'll build a community around it of people, like-minded people in the same space. You'll get to participate and meet a lot of people that probably have similar ideas or things they want to do, build. And by being part of the same DAO, once the educational program ends after the 24 weeks, you'll be able, or the members will be able to take full control of the treasury and take the DAO next level and grow again in the way they might want to explore new ways. And all of that magic will happen during the program. So it's a great experience for those people who have never participated in a DAO and want to learn about how to run a DAO, everything that you can learn by being part of a DAO. And also great way to meet like-minded people that want to build things and take care of things and sort of build community around it.
Yeah, so the it was voted on by the DAO what to do with those funds, and it was put up for an option of you could either keep it in the treasury or you could reclaim it. And so most members reclaim the amount that they had put in, or you could convert it into a Constitution token, and then that became a meme coin. And so that kind of had a fun little skyrocket if you actually did save your money and took the token. But it's inactive now. No, absolutely not. I think what's really fun, so we have product people. So one of my first initiatives in there was, okay, we have a bunch of developers, and then how do we think about this next phase, building products? Let's bring in some product people. We also have designers, we have operators, and so it's really a community of developers, also supported by other members with other expertise. I'll be one of the participants. I'm looking forward to learn during this. Yeah, I think that the first one from an operator standpoint is setting up the systems that allow for community members to chart the course early on. So one of the things that we're implementing right now is the design of a structure that allows for sub DAOs to be spun out. And so what that means is a DAO, the whole complication of DAOs is, okay, so this means we need everyone to vote on every decision that comes through. That seems exhaustive. I don't want to do that. And so we're designing a system that allows for smaller working groups to be spun out. They say, hey, give me the power. You can vote on sort of, who's running this working group, this sub DAO, what's our alignment with the greater DAO, and then bug off. Let us kind of run and operate as we please. And so as long as that alignment is set and maintained, then that team has full autonomy to run as they choose. That's a system that we had to spend time introducing to our community and get their buy-in on, because if they didn't choose to really vote that in and for us to spin this out, it's fully up to them. So even as a steward overseeing our governance and treasury, it's something where you have to follow the sort of rules that you set in place and this mission that the community does have the best intentions in mind. And so just giving them a voice and allowing them to also comment on the ideas of an individual or group. Yeah, I think that delegation hasn't really been explored as thoroughly, and it's starting to as thoroughly as it should be. So the idea here is that a community has their governance token, right? So within Developer DAO, we named ours code because obviously developers. And so that is your voting power within the community. Not every member wants to really keep track of everything that happens within the community. And so you're able to delegate that voting power to another individual. And so what that means is that now you have very engaged individuals with constituents of sorts. But where it differs from, oh, isn't that just the US representation system? Is that at any time, a member is able to undelegate what has been given to them. So they're able to retract their voting power if they disagree with sort of the things that this other individual is voting on. And so I think that's a system that hasn't really yet been fully explored. And so, but something that I think is really interesting.
That's a good question.
I think that a word that's not often spoken about in Web3 is a business model. And so business models are really important. And so how do you not just have this community that's operating, but what is the plan here? And so that's been really fun to figure out in a more social community. Again, investment DAOs, very straightforward business model. You have protocol DAOs that take a cut or fees from the protocol that they manage. And then you have other DAOs that can form. And what is that path to revenue generation? So that's where service DAOs have a really interesting hold on the market of how do you have, let's say, just 100 developers? Let's say you have just 100 designers. There's a DAO called Vector DAO that is 100 designers with specialty that take on clients, and they also service other DAOs and Web2 clients. And so this is a system that this is highly experienced people coming together to bring on clients, work, and profit. And so I think we'll see a lot more of these. The consulting industry is one specifically that I think is really going to be sort of flipped on its head when you have specialists and you're able to go to a community or a DAO of experts and say, hey, take on this project. This is what we're looking for. And yeah, we'll have some ex-McKinsey guys come in and bring their same expertise, but that value is distributed differently through a service. So I think those are really fun models to explore.
Which is already happening, right? Like slowly, consultants are realizing the value of it, like seeing how that's scaling. Do you think we're going to see it more and more in the next few years?
I think that, again, regulation, the legal landscape has made it really difficult at first to understand what you're allowed to do. Like we have a Cayman Islands Foundation that acts as a wrapper where our directors are forced to vote on and make decisions based on the the governance process of the DAO, and the DAO itself is this just enigma that is governed by the community. And so that's a really hard thing to explain to a lot of people who want to spin up a community. And so I think it is going to become a lot easier, and tools like Upstream are great examples of, hey, you want to start a DAO, here's all the tooling that and the administrative things that you need to do that. Yeah, and again, I think that falls into this gray area that DAOs fall into right now. Scams and grifters and con men will follow any avenue that allows them to quickly spin something up and a quick buck, or even if it takes a long time, bad actors will be bad actors. And so I think that as we see more examples of this, it tightens and it brings more awareness to people on what is potentially out there and what can happen without the proper bylaws, without, this is where on-chain technology, so there are traditional DAOs where they're off-chain, right? And then there are fully on-chain DAOs, and there's a lot in the middle there. And so as more become on-chain and make it, there's protocols like HATS protocol, which just does roles and responsibilities, and it's all governed by smart contracts. It's very hard to break past a protocol designed on the blockchain. Not many, this just came out, right? And so there's not many trustless systems yet that are actually being implemented. And so there's a lot of trust being placed in individuals and leaders and small teams that allow for these kind of things to happen. And so I think it really just comes with an advancement into more trustless systems that are just in the process of being designed. I think there's a real unfortunate impatience, I've had it too, with Web3 and crypto and DAOs saying, okay, well, this scammed and so it must not work. And it's like, this is a new paradigm. We're like 3 years into a lot of people being focused on it. What happens 10 years from now when this is actually something that we've spent time designing and building?
Seems like this is causing a lot more questions here in the audience. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that
Mixed views, right? About
yeah.
this.
But
There are mixed views about this that we heard lately. But
yeah, I think that it's really important. Speaking about something like Hatch Protocol, right? And then looking at how would I implement that in Developer now? We have systems in place that are going to be really difficult to bring on chain, retrain our members, introduce to people. We're going to go through the process of it because sort of for this mission and agreed incentive to bring people on chain, but it's really hard to do that once a community is formed and bylaws are formed and things. And so I think if you can start to build a community from the ground up with the ideas of decentralization and these power laws and the understanding of the rules all in place, it's just going to lead to much stronger systems where people enter in to play this game knowing the rules that they're playing and not playing tag with your friends and then they go, oh no, you can't tag me when I'm standing over here. And it's like, that's not a rule. And that's a new rule we just introduced. And so I think, yeah, it has to be agreed upon from the very beginning. And hopefully we can learn from the mistakes of DAOs in the past. I, yeah, I spoke at like a B2B, uh, a, like a B2B industry event, and someone asked if their SaaS app should be a DAO, and I said, please do not. I think I think there are absolutely the companies should be companies. I fully believe this. I think that there are real um, strong opinions that would say, oh, we should make everything a DAO, everything should be turned over to the community, and that's the collapse of capitalism. And so I think that can we find the different use cases or apply DAOs to existing ones, explore it, but I don't think everyone should go, okay, time to form a DAO because it's just going to lead to trouble.
Okay, I'll take it first. So, when you do the onboarding process at Upstream and you want to start a DAO, um, you go through a sequence of questions on well, what are the main settings on what you want to apply. You go through main governance systems like tokenomics, like the major things. We're actually now creating a whole new onboarding process. Up to now, Upstream has mostly operated in a way that when you wanted to start a DAO, you would email us and then we would set a call with you and we would have a very personalized setup. And now we're slowly sort of making it so it's like more seamless experience that you can automatically do it yourself in a more intuitive and seamless way. The reason why we were doing it that way is because every DAO is different and it has its own requirements. So we would always have conversations in the way that they wanted to establish the DAOs and be personalized to them. So in every DAO, it's different, and that's how we've handled that situation. We create all of the smart contracts, we create all of the infrastructure and all of the organization for you. So that's why we have a very personalized experience. Yeah, I mean, if you follow, if you actually are part of My First DAO, you're going to see that right now we are completely launching a new product, from onboarding process to the actual product experience. We're rebuilding an entire new dashboard and the tools that we have in a way that it's much more seamless in terms of user experience. As probably Ryan knows, the space and some of the competitors in the space, it's very difficult to really and again, like, I'm the UX designer, so what we do is we analyze UX flows, right, all day long, and it's a complex process, not only from onboarding, but like the way you actually um, operate a DAO, right? And everyone is doing it in different ways. We're trying to find our method. So if you're part of My First DAO, you might be the lucky ones to see the product now and the new product and see how it's transforming the ecosystem and be part of that experience too. But until now, we've done it in a very manual way, and now we're starting to automate everything in a more seamless way through that process. If that resolves the question.
Yeah, and then I think your question on where to incorporate a DAO of sorts. Yeah, so it's a great question, because if you, and it's sort of up for debate, because for instance, the Wyoming bylaws for DAO incorporation allows for the Secretary of State for Wyoming to at any point dissolve the DAO and say that it's no longer operable. That sort of goes against the entire notion of a DAO being decentralized. And so it's a very tricky system to try and play into. There's some fantastic legal experts looking at the entire legal landscape right now. I would highly recommend LexDAO. So again, shameless plug, I'll be speaking to their team on a podcast. And so because it is so complicated, there's a whole movement of legal engineering around how do you set up a DAO and what does that relationship look like between the organization that is, you know, owned and managed and operated by a token or an NFT membership, and then a legal entity that serves as its sort of legal representative, right? And so we have a Cayman Islands foundation called the Developer DAO Foundation that acts on behalf of the DAO, but it's not actually managing the token. It's not related to in that fashion. And so it's a very interesting system, and I'd love to share some resources on that.
Um, I believe I've heard quite a few conversations about this. I'm more in the product side of the discussions of the product. I can get back to you on that specifically, and give you a much more accurate response. Yeah, I will. Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, every DAO platform really does it their own way, right? One thing that we do a lot at Upstream is question um, the decisions that we're making and the impact of these decisions, right? Um, at the end of the day, we're building a tool, set of tools. We're building a dashboard of something that doesn't really exist, and we don't know how it should look like or how it should operate. And we're like trying to figure out understanding the space and what the space needs, and building it as we're trying to understand at the same time. And that's one aspect of it, right? I'm more on the UX side of it, and we're constantly also trying to work on that. It's interesting to see in terms of how much as creators are we taking in terms of responsibility in how the actions will affect the way we operate things in the future, right? And that's something we question a lot, and we in the design team, for example, we question that for every little feature, right? I mean, does this CTA say anything that will somehow bring us to a space that we don't want to be in afterwards? Does it make sense for us from a regulatory perspective, from a building product perspective, from a future interaction perspective, right? Because we're sort of building it, and we're are responsible of what the consequences will be, right? It's like who designed some of the parts of Facebook and the social repercussion that that had, right? So we have that on us, and we're conscious about our decisions. So I will get back to you on that one, because I'm sure it's a very conscious decision too. Um, that was a decision made to one, make it affordable for people to be able to participate. Um, at the same time, like right now the price is like 0.15 ETH, which is like what, like around 25-30 bucks right now. Like we wanted to make it accessible for people to be able to join, so that the minimum we put is like one NFT vote. You're already part of the DAO, and then if you want to somehow participate more, and like have more voting power, you can earn more of those and generate your own collection of the NFTs if you're also interested in that aspect. It's not in any way a monetizable project per se, in terms of NFT value. It's more of an educational value, and then participation afterwards when the treasury. So I think the motivation was more of an aspect of participation too, and how passionate you are about the project itself. Regarding the amount of DAOs, well, we give the optionality to for people to get extras. I think internally they were saying like perhaps every like something like every member would buy around 10 DAOphins or something like that, as a base layer. But we'll see what people end up doing. It will be an experiment too. Does that respond to your question? Right. I know. I think internally we've capped the voting power at some point, so that doesn't happen. I can I don't know the specifics of like how that, but in the very little explanations afterwards. But I can also get back to you on that one.
I do see your question on
But yeah,
is
in
if
terms
there's
of
uncapped amount of NFTs. I think
which gives you uncapped power. No, they've definitely.
who wants to
for
lend me
that.
100 ETH and take over this DAO?
No, I think there's a max power that you can have, And I think at the end of the program, I don't know how the governance structure will be distributed, but most likely, some of the members will come up with a proposal like, hey, they got all these NFTs, that it's not fair that they have more power. I don't know, like all of this will be discussed. Right now, I don't know exactly where the cap is and what the governance power will be, but I'm sure that there is a cap and that is that we're trying to avoid that happening. So it is not a free program for the people who will see this officially on the day of the launch. They will have to pay the ETH price plus gas. You guys, given that this is a pre-launch event, we wanted to, the reason behind this is not only, and 0.15 ETH is not that much for what you're actually getting, right? So we're really trying to get as many people onboarded and really learning and provide that platform for as many people as we can. And we thought that a pre-launch party and having everyone free access would be a good, generous idea. Yeah.
I have a fantastic spreadsheet for the location that DAOs can be incorporated and then the KYC element. And so it was put together by LuxDAO, and it basically details how many directors have to be KYC, do any have to be KYC'd, and then what are the implications of that. Because I think when you look at this partnership that you're entering into when you start to participate in a DAO, you're very much so, or we are inclined to compare it to something like an LLC where you're saying, okay, I agree to hold assets with this community or this other person, and what are the legal implications of that, right? And so if I leave an LLC, a new partnership is formed so that I can't be sued for what happens after. What does that look like in the DAO landscape? And so I'll send you the spreadsheet. I'm not going to give legal advice, but it's a really interesting field right now, and I think that where we'll be a year from now, 2 years from now, if money is put into lobbying for the U.S. and as international governments start to also address this, I think that these answers will be much more clear. I don't know if you have any expertise. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Anyone else has any questions? Any more questions for Ryan? Any more questions about the My First DAO program? No? Great. Cool. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave the screen here in case you didn't have the time to scan it. And thank you everyone for coming. This was very cool. I loved all of the interactions and participation. Thank you, Ryan, for coming and
Thanks for having
sharing
me.
your experience. You're all welcome to stay for a few more minutes, enjoy some of the food and drinks. And yeah, thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you, everyone.